The moment Meghan Markle's Netflix series With Love premiered, it was billed as a warm, intimate window into her life, a carefully curated invitation to see the real woman behind the headlines. But within hours, that narrative began to unravel. What was supposed to feel heartfelt and relatable instead triggered a wave of criticism so sharp it has dominated media commentary ever since. Now, Megyn Kelly and Daily Mail columnist Maureen have taken center stage in dismantling what they describe as a painfully contrived performance, and their analysis is raising a far more serious question: has Meghan finally overplayed her hand? Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. According to critics, the problem with Love isn't just that it misses the mark. It's that it reveals too much. Kelly and Callahan argue that the show exposes an intense obsession with image control that undermines every claim of authenticity Meghan tries to project. From the opening moments, viewers are presented with scenes that feel less like spontaneous slices of life and more like carefully rehearsed tableaus. Conversations appear overly polished, reactions seem pre-scripted, and even moments meant to convey vulnerability come across as calculated. Megyn Kelly has been particularly blunt in her assessment. She points out that the series doesn't unfold like a documentary but like a branding exercise, one that never allows the audience to forget who is at the center of every frame. Kelly argues that Meghan's presence dominates the show to such an extent that even other participants seem reduced to props, there to affirm her narrative rather than challenge it. Instead of warmth, Kelly says, the result is emotional distance, a feeling that viewers are watching a performance rather than a person. Maureen echoes that sentiment, writing that the series is soaked in self-regard. She highlights what she calls staged friendships, moments where guests lavish praise on Meghan in ways that feel unnatural and rehearsed. Callahan suggests that these interactions are meant to signal relatability and connection, but instead they underline a lack of genuine intimacy. When every exchange feels like it's been filtered through a public relations lens, the illusion of authenticity collapses. The criticism goes deeper than awkward dialogue or glossy visuals. At the heart of Kelly and Callahan's analysis is the idea that With Love unintentionally reveals Meghan's deeper insecurities. They argue that the relentless need to be seen as kind, thoughtful, and misunderstood points to a profound discomfort with how she is perceived. Rather than addressing criticism directly or allowing for complexity, the show attempts to overwrite public opinion with a single, tightly controlled version of events. Kelly notes that this strategy has been used before, from high-profile interviews to podcast appearances, but she argues that the Netflix format amplifies its flaws. Over several episodes, the repetition becomes impossible to ignore. Each carefully framed moment begins to feel like part of a pattern, one where Meghan is always right, always wounded, and always deserving of sympathy. For critics, this lack of self-awareness is precisely what makes the show so uncomfortable to watch. Callahan takes the argument further, suggesting that the series represents a turning point in Meghan's public narrative. For years, she has positioned herself as a victim of relentless scrutiny, someone silenced and misunderstood by powerful institutions. With Love, Callahan argues, was meant to be the definitive rebuttal, a chance to show her humanity without filters. Instead, it may have done the opposite, reinforcing the perception that Meghan cannot tolerate any version of herself that isn't flattering. One of the most talked about aspects of the show is its emphasis on performative authenticity. Viewers are invited into what are presented as candid moments, but critics say these scenes feel anything but candid. Kelly points out that even small details, from lighting to camera angles, seem meticulously planned. In a true documentary, imperfections are often what create trust. Here, the absence of messiness becomes a red flag. The reaction from audiences has mirrored much of this criticism. Social media commentary quickly filled with viewers expressing discomfort rather than connection. Many said they struggled to finish episodes, describing a sense of secondhand embarrassment as scenes dragged on without delivering emotional payoff. Others questioned why a show so focused on love and kindness felt strangely cold. For Kelly, this disconnect is the most damaging outcome of all. She argues that Meghan's brand has always relied on emotional appeal, on the idea that if people could just hear her story, they would understand. With Love was designed to be that story, told in her own words, on her own terms. The fact that it has sparked such intense backlash suggests that the approach itself may be fundamentally flawed. Callahan also raises the issue of timing. In a media landscape saturated with confessionals and personal narratives, audiences have become more discerning. They can sense when vulnerability is being used as a tool rather than shared as a truth. Callahan suggests that Meghan's insistence on controlling every aspect of her image feels out of step with a public that increasingly values transparency, even when it's uncomfortable. The involvement of Netflix adds another layer to the controversy. As a platform known for hard-hitting documentaries and unfiltered storytelling, Netflix carries certain expectations. Critics argue that With Love falls short of those standards, offering style without substance. Kelly has questioned whether the streaming giant misjudged audience appetite or simply underestimated how skeptical viewers have become of celebrity-driven narratives. What makes this moment particularly significant is the convergence of voices criticizing the show. Kelly and Callahan come from different media backgrounds, yet their conclusions align in striking ways. Both see With Love not as a redemption arc but as a miscalculation, one that may accelerate the erosion of Meghan's credibility rather than restore it. There is also the question of how this affects the broader royal narrative. Meghan's story has always been intertwined with her departure from royal life, framed as a brave escape from an oppressive system. Critics argue that With Love was an opportunity to move beyond that chapter and establish a new identity. Instead, the show appears to circle back to the same themes, reinforcing the sense that Meghan remains trapped in a battle with perception. Kelly has suggested that this could be the moment when public patience finally runs out. She notes that audiences are willing to extend empathy when they sense honesty, but they recoil when they feel manipulated. If With Love has confirmed anything, she argues, it's that many viewers now see Meghan's media appearances as strategic rather than sincere. Callahan agrees, warning that the consequences may extend beyond this single project. In an era where public figures rely heavily on personal branding, credibility is currency. Once it's lost, it's difficult to regain. The backlash against With Love, she suggests, may make future projects an even harder sell.